I picked up this old scrub mower for $50 a while ago. It had been sitting under a house and hadn't been running for over 10 years. So I fixed a few issues with the motor and managed to get it running. The motor is actually in pretty good condition, so I won't need to do too much to that. Just give it an oil change and a tune-up. I tried it out and it was cutting grass, but it still has a lot of problems. The cutting shaft bearings are badly worn. The shaft is slipping inside the bearings, which is not ideal. The axle is worn out, so the wheels are all loose and wobbly. The blades need replacing, they're worn out. Basically everywhere you look something needs fixing. So I'll strip it down, give it a water blast, fix everything, paint all the parts and put it back together. That's the worst part there. There's a lot of movement there. All the way down pretty much. There. Alright, that's all the bits and pieces stripped off it. So what I'll do first is just do any welding on it. On the engine plate here, weld these cracks up. Because this axle is so worn out, this side here is the worst, especially on the inside. It sort of tapers down. It's lost about 2 or 3 millimeters off that shaft. I'll just cut that off and weld a new one on there. Makes it easier. That should be a 20mm shaft. This end it's 18.7. There it's 17.36, so it's pretty well worn out. That's why those wheels were on a bit of a lean. This is 20mm steel, so I'll cut that to length and weld some washers on it. I don't know why it had the curve in there though, maybe it's hit something, or why would it have that curve, I wonder. The pulley doesn't come down that far. I guess I'll find out if it's there for a reason. Alright, that wheel's still a bit wobbly there, so I've got to put a bushing in there or a shim to bring it back up. Okay, I found this piece of aluminium pipe, which is good on the inside diameter. Quite tight, so if I just sand a bit off it, and it'll be ideal. fixing it. Fixed. Yay.
Yeah.
Drill a pinhole in there now. That's the new axle welded into place and fixed up the cracks on the motor base. Now we'll sort out the blade guard. You can see it's been ripped apart here a bit, so I'll bend it back into shape and run a bead along there, get it back to how it should be. It's got a bit of rust, but it's not too bad. There's plenty of meat left on there. That's looking a bit better. All panel beated back into place and welded up on both sides, so that shouldn't come apart in a hurry. One thing I do need to improve is this outlet chute. It seems to flick projectiles for miles. Someone suggested putting a chain on it, which isn't a silly idea. Maybe weld it sort of over there and then the chain will slow any big bits down. From what I can see, the pictures I found online, they seem to have like a chute that comes out here, but I don't really want something coming out that far because I'll be working around trees and fences. I need to keep it pretty low profile if I can. Alright, that should do the job. We'll stop any big rocks coming out of there. Alright, I'll flush that out with a little bit of diesel. It's not leaking out, that's a good sign. One more. Alright, that's ready to go back on. I'll give that a degrease and a quick paint before I put it on. It'll be good for another 50 years probably. I've degreased everything so there's no oil on it. Now I've just got to get rid of that rust. I'll use a sanding disc, flapper disc for that. Not as good as sandblasting, but I find it's less messy and you don't have to buy loads of sand or blasting medium. So I'll just give it a once over, and then there'll be little bits of pitting where the disc didn't get into, so I'll coat it with a rust neutralizer and then just paint it. It's dried off nicely. So I'll put the first top coat on now. That's hardening up nicely. One more coat should do it. That's a coat of primer and 2 top coats, so that's good enough for me. Obviously my painting skills aren't what they could be, but should look pretty good once it's all put together. Alright, I've ordered a new blade, nice and sharp. I got some new bearings as well, and you can see this is the old one. It was quite loose on there. The new one is nice and tight, so that should be a lot better. I'll raise the blade slightly so that the bearing isn't running on the worn out parts, and that just means the blade will be slightly higher than it was, which will work out good anyway, because I don't really want it cutting so low. I'll go around and punch that shaft just to spread it out a bit, and then put some retaining compound on, and that should lock everything in place. Because as soon as that bearing starts spinning on the shaft, it's going to just get worse and worse, so lock it in from the beginning and it should be okay. Alright, so that's sort of mushrooms the shaft and expands it slightly, so that should help lock the bearing in place. Together with the locking compound, it shouldn't move. The bearing shop only had one sealed bearing. The sealed bearing can go on the bottom, which is there, and the open bearing can go on the top, and I'll just have to grease it every now and then. I think they're quite an uncommon size bearing, so they didn't actually have many of these, so it'll be alright. 641 bearing mount compound, and I'll spread that around the edge. Make sure it's nice and clean in there, no grease or oil. Feels good. So that's nice and tight in there now. Should be good. Good. That's all ready to go on now. Alright, that's pretty much ready to go now. It's looking good. Looks brand new again. So we'll see how it handles that long grass and the thistles. Some of those thistles are over 1 metre high, so it'll be a good test for it. In there somewhere. Alright, I found the wasp nest, it's just down there. Hard to see them, but there's quite a few going in and out. There must be just a hole under that log there. They didn't like the lawnmower. Okay, I'll have to come back and get that tonight. Oh, they're starting to buzz around me. Oh, that's so much better than it was. No more wobbly wheels and loose bearings. It's got plenty of power. It pulls me up those hills with ease. Chomps down those 1 metre high thistles, no problem. So it was definitely worth doing. I think I spent probably $150 on parts and paint, and the mower cost me $50, so I've got a good mower for $200 now. It did take probably a couple of days to do all the work, but I think it's worth it. It's going to last for years now. Definitely worth doing. So I'm pretty happy with that. Thanks for watching. See you next time.